Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Dollars and Cents here on News Radio WFLA Orlando. My name is Joel Garris of Nelson Financial Planning. This segment of the program, we thought we would kind of wake up the millennials a little bit, to have them smell the coffee, because the latest statistics are not particularly good as to how their age group is doing. To recap, you are a millennial if you were born between 1981 and 1996. That means you're somewhere between 23 and 38 years of age. The reason you're important is you're basically responsible for funding the Social Security of the baby boom generation. So they're particularly concerned about making sure that you can do a good job and you work and you pay your taxes and you pay along the way, because you're responsible for funding their retirement. Sorry, but that's just how it goes. The reality is, though, that unfortunately, that age group is way, way, way behind where it should be on a historical basis in terms of their finances. This statistic comes from the Federal Reserve Bank. Okay, so it's not, just some institution that nobody's ever heard of or doesn't really have enough resources or any of that. This is the statistic from the Federal Reserve Bank. Federal Reserve Bank says that the average millennial in 2019 had a net worth that was 41% less, obviously on an inflation-adjusted basis. There's an inflation adjustment in there. Net worth 41% less than the net worth of a similarly aged adult 30 years earlier. Let me say that again. According to the Federal Reserve Bank, the average millennial has a net worth that is 41% less on an inflation-adjusted basis than similar adults from 30 years ago. What's happening there? Well, we've got a few theories, and we're going to talk a little bit about it here in this segment. And what, if you're a millennial, what you need to do to get back on track. And there's been a lot of studies and a lot of statistics out about that particular generation, that some of which, if you kind of parse it through and sort of connect the dots a little bit, it helps to explain why they might be as behind as they are. I think one of the first things is that society is very different today than it was 30 years ago. And not to cast too much judgment, and I don't want to cast too much judgment on millennials as a whole. I think this is a society issue as a whole, not just unique to millennials. But in today's world, you have a much more of a need it now mentality. It's just so easy to click a button and buy something. You walk into stores, people are just, kind of flicking their phones, okay? Giving a credit card, whatever the case may be. It's just too easy. And what that does is it leads to a habit of spending what you're bringing in. And if you're spending what you're bringing in, then you're never going to be able to save anything. You're never going to be able to get ahead. You're never going to be able to buy that first house. You're never going to be able to do so many different things that come from that. So first and foremost, it really is about trying to track how you're spending your money. It's so easy to spend money in today's world on anything under the sun. There's websites like Amazon, you click and poof, it shows up at your door. How easy is that? How easy can that be? That ease of use, we believe, leads to a culture that spends more than it really should, a culture that spends too much. And so one of the pieces of advice that we would have for you, and particularly for those millennials, that millennial generation that is behind its peer group, substantially behind its peer group, is to start carrying cash. Cash, yes, cash. I know there are some places that don't take cash anymore, okay? But carry cash. Because you will see visually in your wallet the cash going out the door. And when you've got less cash in your wallet, you'll stop and think twice about spending that money. So our first piece of advice on this is start to carry cash. Give yourself a certain amount of money that you're going to spend each and every week. Put that cash in your wallet, and when the cash is gone, you ain't spending anything more. That's the best way to track it. It's just far too easy to click, swipe, tap, whatever, Venmo, whatever the case may be, and you lose track of it. Go to cash, and you'll be able to keep track of it much better and much easier, because you'll see the cash in your wallet start to go down, and maybe you'll start to spend less, because you've got to get caught up. The statistics from the Federal Reserve Bank are shocking. 41% behind where similar aged adults were 30 years ago. Another one, don't be intimidated by the stock market. We've seen the statistics on this, and millennials as a whole have a tendency to be much more conservative on their investment allocation than they should be for people that are basically in their 20s and 30s. Don't be intimidated by investing your money. And don't be distracted either, because there's a whole lot of distractions. Bitcoin, okay, gold, whatever the case may be. There's all kinds of distractions from an investment perspective that will cause you to lose track, to lose ground. So be an investor, be an owner of the companies that make the stuff that you and I and the rest of the world uses every single day. Be an owner. The asset allocation for most millennials is much more conservative than it should be. In your retirement account, if you're in your 20s and 30s, you should have virtually nothing on the bond side at this stage in the game. You've got another 20 to 40 years to go before you even can get access to that money at 59.5 without even a 10% penalty. So you've got to look at your investment allocation and to try and make up that ground. And don't be afraid to start. Far too often, particularly if I can just swipe, tap, or whatever, and get something, I'm going to give in to that urge. Remember, investing is about time in, not timing. Start small and build from there. But it's important that you start. Far too often, it's easier to say, I'm not going to bother, or I'll do it next year, or whatever the case may be. But you've got to start saving for your retirement, for your future, for a potential home purchase, all of those kinds of things. And you don't have to have $10,000 to do it. A lot of savings programs can be set up for $50 a month, for $100 a month, for very low numbers. And so that's the important thing to remember. Your employer plan also those contributions come directly out of your paycheck. It's easy. You can set those up at very small increments that come out of your paycheck on a regular basis. So remember, folks, look, if you're a millennial, you are way behind. That statistic, when I first saw it, was pretty shocking. But it has to do with society today and how you overcome that. Our recommendation is to carry cash. That way you keep track of exactly how much you spend. Don't be intimidated by the stock market. You've got to have investments that are going to grow because you've got a long time in front of you. And you don't have to start with the $1,000 or $10,000 or any of that. Start small and build from there. But most importantly, you got to get started. Because millennials, it's time to wake up. Smell the coffee. You're way, way, way behind where you should be at this stage in the game. So some pretty disturbing news for that age group. But there's something you can do. So hopefully you follow those 3 steps that we outlined. We'll be back here on the program Dollars and Cents. This is Joel Garris, Nelson Financial Planning News Radio, WFLA, Orlando.